I've played many RPGs in my time, especially in the last few years, but there are still plenty of game series that I simply have not gotten around to playing. There are many reasons for this, some of which I will lay out specifically in this video, but for all of these series, I have considered playing them in the past, and I do intend to get to them one day. Perhaps some of these are ones that you have also considered getting into, but have not yet for various reasons. So today, I wanted to do a quick go-through of these series that have caught my eye, but have yet to grace my screen. The Bravely series. The Bravely series is a series of turn-based combat RPGs developed and published by Square Enix, specifically by the Team Asano group, also responsible for the HD 2D games. The series has three main series games, starting with Bravely Default back in 2012 for the 3DS, and the most recent release is Bravely Default 2 for Switch and PC. Now, every single one of these series have reasons why I haven't played them yet, but I have technically played a little of the Bravely series. Specifically, I spent some time on the demos for Bravely Default and Bravely Default 2, and unlike other Team Asano developed games such as Octopath Traveler and Triangle Strategy, the demos did not resonate with me. It's not that the setting or characters didn't work for me, the visuals and music are great from what I've seen. My bad first impression came entirely from the gameplay and specifically how hard every encounter was during the demo. That was my firm impression of the games until one day someone mentioned something about the Bravely demos. They deliberately make the demos harder than the regular game because unlike for games like Octopath Traveler, the demos aren't just the beginning of the game. They are later sections that are pre-built for the players and you therefore lose out on the tutorial and gradual learning curve. That is why I am now willing to give the Bravely games a try, because the setting and characters do intrigue me. People rave about the music and I like the artistic style of the games. I'm hoping that the first impression was colored badly by the demo and that I will have a great time when I do finally get around to playing Bravely Default. We actually came close to having this not be on the list since Bravely Default 2 was in the poll for the long RPG I would be streaming, but it lost out to Persona 3 Reload, so the wait for Bravely continues. I also have to figure out if it's worth it for me to try to track down a physical copy of Bravely Default and Bravely Second for the 3DS. My 2DS may have seen better days, but I have broken it out occasionally for games in the past couple years such as Pokemon Alpha Sapphire and Tales of the Abyss. Bravely Default 2 certainly makes the most sense to start with from an access point of view, but I'm also holding out some hope that the 3DS entries get modern console/PC ports. Come on, Square Enix, you know you want to do it! Yakuza / Like a Dragon. The Yakuza series, or Like a Dragon series, began as an action-adventure beat-em-up combat game, but with the two most recent entries has transitioned over to a traditional turn-based combat RPG. Unsurprisingly, it was that gameplay transition that really caught my eye for the series with the 7th entry, Like a Dragon. However, I had been hearing great things about the Yakuza series from long before Like a Dragon came about, as it was described as a fun series with lots of drama from the plot and setting, great characters, huge amounts of side content, and a tone that can go from wacky to serious in the blink of an eye. You can understand why I might be interested in giving the series a try myself. There are a couple things about the Yakuza series though that held me back. The first was simply doubt over where to start. I know all about the choice paralysis that can come with that, having experienced it when trying to get into the East games as well as helping others through it with the Trails series. Yakuza isn't even the only series on this list that has caused me problems in trying to figure out where to start. At this point though, I'm pretty sure I want to start with 7. I like the setting, and starting with a gameplay system that I think will be more familiar will help ease me into the games. The second part that held me back though is with the massive amounts of side content. I know you don't have to engage with every little thing in a game, and I rarely 100% any games, but I do always want to do enough to feel like I have a good idea of what the game has to offer in all areas. That is a significant time commitment, and as my life has become busier and busier, I have felt more and more pressure in my game selection decisions to maximize my time without overwhelming myself. I do believe that I will play a game from this series soon. Maybe sooner than any other on the list. We'll see. I have routinely included it in my what should I play next polls, and while it has never won, Like a Dragon has come close. It just ultimately couldn't compete with the Square Enix titles like Dragon Quest and Nier Replicant. Also, side note, but I didn't know they were releasing a TV show for the series in October until I started doing the research for this video. This series really has come a long way, and I'm hoping that I will be joining the fandom sooner rather than later. .hack. This is an interesting one because unlike every other series on this list, I hadn't actually considered playing the .hack games prior to making this list. I was aware of their existence, but I could tell you pretty much nothing about the games apart from that they were developed by CyberConnect 2, who have recently been busy with the Fuga Melodies of Steel games, and published by Bandai Namco, who are busy with everything that is not an RPG, not counting anime tie-ins right now. Once I did finally look into the games, I was fascinated. So let's talk about why. The .hack series is an action RPG series that began back in 2002 with .hack Infection. And then the next 3 games in the series, still all in 2002. It is part of a larger Project .hack multimedia series, and all of them are set in an MMORPG that has started having effects on the real world and the protagonist's efforts to figure out why. If this sounds familiar, congratulations, you have watched anime in the last decade. I do like the MMORPG setting for a single-player game reminiscent of the RPG Gem Crosscode, and given that there are several games all following the same characters, there's plenty of opportunity for growth and intrigue. The main issue with the .hack series at this point, though, is access to the games. The first 4 games, Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, and Quarantine, are all stuck on the PS2 with no immediate prospects of coming to any newer platforms. That means that for modern gamers, the later trilogy spin-off, .hack/G.U, is the one available in its remastered recode version form. That obviously would be the game that I would play for the series, but it seems a shame that an ambitious series like this has its first games that launched the series and were fairly popular for the time locked away 3 console generations back. Obviously, there are ways to still play the PS2 versions, but it seems a shame that Bandai Namco has not done anything with this back catalog. For now though, I look forward to one day playing .hack/G.U Last Recode, and I hope that it can live up to the intriguing premise. When will I get to the series?
We get there when we get there!
Yeah, I'm not promising any specific timelines for these ones. Atelier. I don't play a lot of cozy games. I pretty much have Stardew Valley, and then I could count some of the relaxing strategy games I've played like Dorf Romantic or Terra Nil, but relaxing RPG? Forget about it. That's why the Atelier series has had me intrigued to give a try, as the mix of a more relaxed setting of adventures and alchemy has me thinking it would be a fun series to bring more variety to the types of games I play. The Atelier series is a series of turn-based RPGs developed by Gust and published by Koei Tecmo. The series started with Atelier Marie in 1997 and is usually set in mini-series of games set in the same area with some of the same characters. The most recent games were the Atelier Rise trilogy. Okay, Atelier Reslariana is newer, but it's also free to play, so all focused on Ryza and her adventures as a burgeoning alchemist. Many of the games of the series do have multiple endings and a time limit to keep things going, but I continuously hear them referred to as a relaxing time to play. To change the typical RPG pace and stakes while still embracing that adventurous feeling has meant Atelier has been on my list for a little while now. Atelier Ryza appeared in a few of my polls, but has never garnered enough support to take the top spot and rise to the top of my backlog. While I know there are plenty of fans, Atelier is one of the more niche series among the ones I'm discussing today. That means that it is likely going to be on my schedule that I start the series, and currently I'm interested in sitting back and seeing what Gus does with the series. I was disappointed that Atelier Reslariana turned out to be a free-to-play game, as those games rarely work for me in the short term and never work in the long term. Therefore, my Atelier experience may either wait until there's a down moment where I can go back to Atelier Ryza, or until the next proper mainline game releases so I can jump on then. Final Fantasy. Here's the big one, the one that has caused more consternation in my viewership than any other game series. I'm sure I don't need to introduce this seminal RPG series to all of you. I have not played a single Final Fantasy game, mainline or spin-off. I think some of that may be because of the time that I started getting into JRPGs. Final Fantasy XV's PC port had been delayed due to the awful alpha build, Final Fantasy XIV was still working to win back the crowd, and the Final Fantasy VII Remake was still nowhere in sight. I therefore didn't see the series as something to spend my time on, even more so when the prior entries were sparsely available on PC. Things have changed quite a bit since then, but I still have not jumped on the series, either with the past games via releases like the Pixel remasters or just the general PC ports for games such as 7, 8, 9, or 10, or the modern games such as 16 or Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like with Yakuza, time is a factor in this. There are a lot of games, and the Final Fantasy series isn't known for their quick and breezy stories and gameplay. That's a big part of the appeal, but it makes it harder to fit them into my schedule. There's also the Sony timed exclusivity for several of the releases. I do not have a PS5, and don't intend to get one since I'll just be waiting for them to come on PC anyway. The direction the Final Fantasy series has taken towards more action RPG combat is not one I'd like to follow. And yet, I'm still excited to get to play the games in the future. I see paths to playing, which is why I even put playing a Final Fantasy game as the reward for getting me to 100 Twitch followers. Remake's hybrid system was a fun experience in the demo, even if I would have to wait for Rebirth. The rumors of a remake of 9 has also captured my attention as one of the final fully turn-based Final Fantasy games. Heck, there's even rumors of Final Fantasy Tactics coming back in some form, and after playing Triangle Strategy, I'd love to get my hands on the inspiration for it. My Final Fantasy adventures are out there, it's just a question of when and which one to begin with, which is a barrier in and of itself, but I'm sure I can figure it out if there is enough support for me to play some Final Fantasy games. You can also attribute my excitement to eventually play them with my reading of the excellent Fight Magic Items book by Aidan Mower on the early days of JRPGs, and the upcoming release of Fantasian Neo Dimension from the creator of Final Fantasy. It feels at this point like I'm a marble spinning around a funnel with Final Fantasy at the bottom. Occasionally comes close to going down, but hasn't gotten there yet. The arc though is getting tighter and tighter until eventually the marble will fall through. Hopefully all those awaiting my Final Fantasy thoughts can be patient a little longer and send my apologies to Andrew in the meantime. There you have it. That's not all the JRPG series I have not played, but it's certainly the 5 that have occupied my mind the most in the last few months. I also have not given up hope that those Suikoden remasters will come out soon and take another series off my list of ones to play, but I'm also not holding my breath on that one. What RPG series have you been holding off playing and why? Let me know in the comments and leave a like on the video. Subscribe to keep an eye on when I do finally get to these games, and thank you for watching. Have a great day and happy gaming.